Alright, well this is Squire coming to you guys again this week, episode 49. Nobody is in the channel right now, probably because they're all at BlizzCon this week, but that doesn't matter to me. I still have plenty of giveaways to do this time, but tonight we're going to be talking about some of the open beta stuff that's been going on, the Halloween past priority bug, Baby Yeti, the Accidental Night novel. We're going to also talk about the gamer reviews that was done by US Gamer Reviews. And there was some final information that came out just a couple minutes ago, so I went over that. It's, a lot of exciting stuff with some timelines for the new Hex sets and some PvE stuff, a lot of PvE news. So there's a lot to talk about, and then at the very end we're going to do a deck doctor for I forgot his name, but like it's going to be a crazy good show tonight, even though I don't have a guest on. So let's dive right in, shall we? Alright, so first things first, the beta keys are no longer needed, which is pretty cool. If you had friends that wanted to get in and everyone was like, oh, you need a beta key, they no longer need it. Now, they're not calling it open beta yet because it doesn't have all the things that were promised or associated with Kickstarter, most likely, but that's fine. It really doesn't matter that much. If you want to get in now, you just come in here, you sign up for the beta, you download the client, and then I guess you're going to get a response somehow. I haven't tried it myself. I haven't tried to make up another account. I already have two. I got the one for myself and then one for my wife, so really not too much of a reason for me to do it, but this way my youngest brother who is interested now can get into the game. I don't have to worry about getting him a beta key or any of the people at work that I know. So this should be really good for us because this will influx a lot more people, and hopefully we'll get some more tournament queues firing a little bit more easily. I have noticed that the tournament queues have been kind of dipping down. It's been a little bit tougher on Sundays for me to get my draft in, but you know, it's not too bad yet. So moving on, the Halloween update, basically they just said Happy Halloween. We're working on Shattered Destiny, which is of course the next set 2 for Hex, and the big thing was that there was a past priority bug that was going on since I think when they tried to do the unlimited tournament. So that's one of the things that's been on their radar, and they were definitely looking into that. I see you in the channel, Timberlust. Stick around until the end of the program. I've got a lot of good stuff to give away. You can check my Twitter feed. I did tweet out some of the things I'll be giving away tonight, so do stick around, please, and make sure you're following. So we got the Baby Yeti award for all the closed beta people, and I guess that there was this forum post that I missed. I don't go to the main Hex forums that much. It's quite a humorous forum post where someone talks about the Baby Yeti being overpowered. Actually, I think it's one of my viewers, if I remember right. But basically you get this cool AA where it's he's just kind of in this snowy type area. I definitely like the alternate art a lot more than the regular art, so I might have to have my wife's account trade me those so I can have a playset of Baby Yeti, or maybe I'll trade them over to her and let her play with Gore Storm with those or something. So not really that much more to say there, so we'll just kind of move on here. Patch incoming. This is just talking about them patching the past priority bug. Not really too much else to say here. You know, if you've been on the last week, they basically patched during I guess this was on 11/06, so yesterday they patched. I went ahead and updated. I have been told that things have been running a little bit smoother by other people that are playing the game right now, so basically just a patch notice. They didn't nearly go over the patch notes too much. Next thing on the docket is interview with Christy Golden. There's this great interview which I guess was conducted by Michael Kirchhoff, who is he is also a novelist. He wrote the what was it? I've started reading it and I forgot what it's called already. It was a novel that was out for free for a little while, so I went ahead and picked it up. It's the Fifth Beast, I believe, was the novel that he put out. Started reading that. Pretty interesting novel that he put out, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Christy Golden's novel, which is The Accidental Knight. Now, the name of the knight, I guess, is William, and it sounds like it's one of those kind of like coming-of-age story type of things. She also talks about really liking the coyotals in this interview. You know, we haven't really seen too many wolf races in games that I know of, so yeah, it's a pretty exciting thing. She actually talks about liking them a lot, like she likes the different like she also likes griffins a lot. I see you, Golden Saucer guy, in the channel. Make sure to stick around for giveaways at the end. He talks about it was a lot harder back in the old days to produce content and then have it recognized or basically to send it out. There were no, like, getting on with a publishing company was a lot more difficult, but now, for instance, if you're a writer or a novelist, like, you can publish things through Amazon and do things digitally. You know, the same thing for a lot of indie developers. You know, is a lot more difficult when all video games were basically discs or some sort of cartridge, like in the old Nintendo. It's the same thing is basically going on there. So it's definitely good to see that, like, things have shifted, but, you know, knowing where she came from is pretty interesting. There's a picture of her. I have no guest for next week set up. I'm trying to get some really cool guests because we do have the 50th episode. Next week is going to be a crazy week as far as giveaways, so definitely make sure to tune in next week for Deck Building with the Squire, because I'm planning on doing some crazy, like, Oprah stuff next week. So, I mean, you know, I can't give you guys cars or anything, but you know what I'm saying. Let's see, what else did I write down for my notes on the Christy Golden article? She does mention in this some of the questions she likes to ask. Some of the more interesting things are why do good people do bad things? What makes them fall? What makes them get back up? Which kind of makes me think of Spider-Man a little bit. Yeah, I mean, she's talking about a lot of interesting concepts when it is that you write. So especially if you're a novelist or if you're someone that likes to write, I would definitely read this interview. It's definitely a good thing to go through about Christy Golden. I'm looking forward to reading more about the lore for Hex, so that way I can get a better feel for PvE. So moving on. So there was another update. Of course, Hex likes to put out these Friday updates, and a lot of times because of the time difference between the show and California time, they're putting them out probably around 6 o'clock or 5:30, probably when they're closing up shop. So that's why I get these, like, very quick. So there's some good stuff on here that kind of go back to the Q&A with Christy Golden. The daily stream program's going pretty well. We have 5 streamers. They are trying to pick some more people up eventually, as I understand it. I did talk to CM Fento, or Sean Silverman, who is the I emailed him, so we've been emailing back and forth because I was trying to get a good guest for next week, but unfortunately that's not going to work out due to some conflicts of interest with some other things. But in the future, I should be able to get a maybe get a development person on the show again, like we did with episode 25. But the coolest thing on this is Cory is talking about the Friday update, and there's another Kickstarter which he's kind of endorsing called Epic Manager. I haven't taken a look at it myself. I'll probably look at it after here. But they also talk about the forum post with Cory, and I guess there's like 68 pages of questions, and he's answering people. But if you don't want to read that, you come over here, and I guess Hex Primal put out an awesome summary of this. So a lot of really good information here. So we're just going to kind of run through this list. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm sure you can look through it yourself. But some of the more important things to me, I'm going to go ahead and pull out of this list. So first thing is, let's see here. The set 2 is due in November, and obviously it's November now, so they have all the way up until technically November 31st to produce us set 2, and that would be really nice for me, being the deck doctor who's trying to build decks. I've been building decks for now almost 50 episodes, so it would be nice to have some new cards to build with. Now, we have built decks on Deck Building with the Squire with some set 2 cards, but it's kind of a moot point when it is that you can't play with the cards. So hopefully we'll get some nice set 2 stuff going on. Next thing on here is there's going to be a planned 3 to 4 month rotation, which is very important for people to plan for. So, like, if you're getting into the game and let's say that you know a certain set's going to drop off, you may not want to invest in that set. In some other card games, the way it works is you have 3 sets, a core set, another 3 sets, and then there'll be a core set, and when that happens, there's something like 8 sets in play, and then when the next set comes out, the original the core set and that other 3 set block will fall off. Now I know that they've changed that recently, but that's the basic concept. Another along those lines, Cory has said that there's not going to be any core sets planned. And for people that don't understand what a core set is, it's basically a lot of what they would call staple cards that are going to be in every set. So like things like the burn card, burn for 2 points of damage. That's a card that you're going to see in most core sets. And if it's not exactly burn, it'll be a card very much like burn. So it'll be like 1, and maybe it won't be quick action speed. Maybe it'll be basic action speed for the same spell or something like that. You know, like resource dorks, the dorks that we can put in play for like 1 resource, and then they produce 1 resource for us to ramp our deck. That's the type of things that we see in base decks. And of course, all the things that are that make the different shards what they are, you'll see in those core sets. You know, things that are like their specific counters to certain cards. Like for instance, in Diamond, you have a card, I always forget what it's called, but it's basically Exile, which allows you to exile a card. Like you'll probably have a card that exiles cards, permanents on the table. Let's see what else is on here that was really interesting. The double backs are due in Q1, which will be really cool. We'll go back and we're actually going to read through the PvE, but first of all, I'll talk about the double backs. The stats are not going to be tracked until the database features in the game, I guess. But they are coming. There's also extended art that you can unlock, and level up cards to be tradable. Time unlock depends on each type of cards, and they'll be tracked individually. So this will make things a little bit more tricky when it is you're selling your cards or trading your cards. You won't, you know, if you level up a card, you're going to kind of want to know what level it is. So, right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Timberluster, you're exactly right. Draw 2 cards would be an example of a staple card in a core set for sure. Moving back a little bit to the PvE, or what they're determining as Arena here. Released in December of 2014 is their target, so maybe we might see PvE Arena by Christmas time. So that'll be a nice Christmas present for all of the players of Hex who have been chomping at the bit, as it were, to get in to do some PvE. It's kind of brave for them to be doing this. I mean, I would have expected them to have tried to have maybe tested it a little bit at Gen Con if they had something. I don't know that they had anything at that point in time, but that's kind of when I expected to see it, and because it didn't come out, I knew that people have really been wanting to get into the PvE, and so hopefully next year we'll have like a part of Gen Con that will be PvE stuff, and then you'll also have people that will be able to do the PvP type stuff. And it would even be nice to have some sort of wireless feature so we can bring in our own like tablets or something like that to play on, which would be really cool. Phase 1 for the PvE Arena is they're going to do the PvP champions instead of the PvE ones, and then phase 2 you'll be able to use the mercenaries, and eventually we're going to get those PvE champions eventually. The Kickstarter rewards are planned to be delivered with the Arena launch, but Cory will not let this hold up the Arena. So your Kickstarter rewards, you won't get them right away, or you will get them right away, cards and equipment, so that's good. AI is being worked on by Chris, who is the main PvE person, Chris Woods, and I've spent a decent amount of time talking to him, so I know that he has a passion for PvE and dungeon crawling and doing Dungeons and Dragons and that type of thing, so I have a lot of faith in him creating a very satisfying experience for us, the players. AI is being worked on by Chris, and they keep promising that it's going to be very challenging. There will be 2 modes of difficulty. This is a question that I asked when I talked to Drew Walker back at Gen Con, so that's a good thing to hear. There will be 20 hours average of per player to clear all of the content. Now that doesn't count in the replayability, whereas you're going to want to go in and grind to get a specific item, and that doesn't count in like if you want to just level up your champion or do whatever. Of course, we won't have leveling until we have levelable champions, so we'll see how that goes. Arena will drop both Set 1 and Set 2 items. I'm not sure which sets they're talking about, PvE sets, or if they're talking about PvP sets. I guess probably PvP sets. We will be able to get PvE cards and equipment from the arena and the chests. The experience is varied and fun with lots of special little things happening, and we've heard a lot of this before, how it is that some things are going to be normal. We're going to know what's going on, like we'll go into it with a regular deck and that will be good enough, but other PvE experiences are going to be more like a puzzle where it's going to, you know, maybe instead of us having to pay resources, maybe they'll just give us like infinite resources, and you'll have to choose the right card for the right. You only get to play one card a turn or something. Like there's a lot of development space that they could go into with the PvE for sure, and they can definitely change up the rules on us to make it more puzzle based than more like PvP based, I guess. Let's see, there's no limit on how many times you can clear per day for now, is what I would say on that, so it's going to be very grindable. Of course, a lot of people are worried about the AI, and again, talking to Drew Walker, you know, going back to that interview, referencing that, he said that some of the PvE content would not be grindable at all because of the puzzle aspect of it. It would be very difficult to program an AI to do that. Now, this kind of goes to what's happened recently in Hearthstone. There was a huge crackdown on bots in Hearthstone because that game is simple enough that it would be easy, quite easy, to develop a bot for it, which, you know, if it's winning 51% of your stuff, then you're fine because it just levels up your thing, you get your golden portrait, and everybody's happy, right? So it's good to know that you know, the game is already difficult enough because we have a response system built into the game. So it's, you know, it's going to be difficult enough to program something just to cast a counter magic at the right time. Beyond that, like their PvE stuff is going to be more puzzle based, I guess. Gold rewards will be removed from the PvP with arenas, as it should be enough for generating gold. So again, we're really not sure what the average gold per hour is going to be, or how much gold is going to be worth. Right now, the only thing we have to base it on is basically if you win PvP stuff, you get a hefty amount of gold, like I think it's like 20,000 or something. So we're really not sure exactly what the value of gold is. Then it says some set hidden card combos are planned in the arena, but will not delay its launch. Now, what does this mean? I don't know what that means. I mean, does it mean like if I play a Baby Yeti and then play another Baby Yeti, suddenly they turn into 2, 3, 3 Baby Yetis or something? I don't know, like in specific PvE situations, but it's exciting to think about, like hidden combos in the cards. I mean, I would expect it to be something similar to that, where you happen to play 2 cards and those ones happen to have some sort of special PvE interaction that only gets unlocked when you happen to play those 2 things. It's a lot like in the old days of when we did fighting games, when nobody knew all the moves, so you had to figure them out. You were like, oh, well, if I do a quarter circle forward and then a punch button, then I get to throw the Hadouken, right? You know, I don't think that there was any manual per se that told you exactly all the moves until, you know, Game Informer or whoever put out a magazine and then just told everyone all the moves. You had to just kind of find them yourself, and then later on they went ahead and published all the moves. So that is kind of a way I look at the set hidden card combos. It's kind of like trying to figure out those moves in those old fighting games. No plans to release new arena AI in the Proving Grounds. Now, this is important because everyone talks about how the AI is really bad in the Proving Grounds. Now, it has gotten quite a bit better from the old alpha. It's making a lot less simple mistakes. It's still not the greatest. It still will go all in when it needs to block, you know, like when it needs to hold troops back for blockers, but it does the job for, you know, it's what I still call it next level gold fishing, because, you know, at least it puts up a fight. And of course, if you fight against the Sapphire deck, then you might actually give you a run for your money a little bit. They talk about chests. They talk about dungeons down here. Now, the craziest thing down here is they say they have 40 dungeons. They're done in terms of design. So they've designed 40 dungeons. Now, that can mean a lot of things, like designing a dungeon could mean a concept to me, or it could mean that we actually have something on paper and we've actually tried it out. So I'm not sure what designing 40 dungeons means. I'm guessing they probably actually at least have like 5 to 10 that are actually been tried out in the paper format and stuff, because we have heard from people that they have tested paper form of the dungeons, but there's a possibility that they may have actually created 40 dungeons in paper and tested 40 dungeons. I mean, it has been over a year now, so I mean, they have had some time to do that, and we know that they have multiple teams for specific things. Each dungeon boss has its own specific loot table, which is, you know, MMO, of course. The might system is going to be implemented when the dungeons are implemented, and we're going to get our first dungeon first half of 2015. So that's all the way up to after school is out of next year. We may see the first dungeon, the first real dungeon. Who doesn't love kids? Yeah, they're watching Frozen downstairs. We're trying to keep them quiet. We're doing the best we can. Stick around, though. We got plenty of great giveaways for you guys that tough it out, because I know it's so hard listening to kids scream and have them play in the background. So another thing that's interesting to me is they talk about ranked ladders. Of course, this is very interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to use the classic ELO system. For, you know, which goes back to a chess format. Basically, whenever I beat somebody, I take their points, and my rating goes up and their rating goes down, and eventually, like, everything should pan out to when I play against people, I'm playing against people that are similar in the same rank to me. That's the way the matchmaking should work. Moving on, we've got the stack view in the card manager is getting updated. That's very important for me because I like to see my curve visually. We know that we can see it when we're doing stuff, when we're building decks in the draft mode, but it hasn't been implemented in the main deck builder mode. So it's really good to see that they're implementing that, and there's a bunch of other quality of life type of things that they're adding on. They also talk about the apprentice program. They actually did pick up a full-time hire, Hex Ryan. I believe that they had 3 people that were possibles, and so it's always difficult for us outside looking in to, you know, to say, well, why didn't they pick up all 3? Was there a contest? Did it become like Survivor? You know, did they, you know, because jobs in the game industry are more work to get into classically, and then on top of that, it's a lot of work to get into for less pay than you would do for a similar job in another company. For, like, for instance, a programmer is probably going to make less, especially at a smaller company like Cryptozoic. So there's a lot of different factors. Maybe it was that, you know, there's a conflict of personality there, or maybe it just didn't work out for their where they wanted the direction of their career to go. So really excited to see that they did pick up one of those full-time hires from that apprentice program, that it worked well for them. And maybe some people just didn't have the aptitude for what they were doing as well. They also have planned a bunch of other things. We've got the Exalted program that Cory talks about here. I guess these are special partners that want to help build Hex. I guess these would be like larger companies, like maybe if Coke or Pepsi wanted to help out Hex, they could do some sort of a program to incentivize, but of course I don't see that happening until, like, we're out of beta. The Hero of the Year program, this gives the top tier players some AA codes, so when you beat them, it's an assassination type of thing, so you get to assassinate them, and then they give you an AA code. It says that they will actually just drop it automatically, which would be really cool, so that way whenever someone, you know, beats someone like myself, not saying that I would be good enough to get into one of these, but you know, let's say that I was, then, you know, every week that incentivizes people to play, and then in those drafts with those people, and so it's just, you know, more people will want to get on when it is that I'm sitting in chat and I'm going, hey, could I get some more people to queue into this tournament with me. The mentorship program is rewards veterans for reaching out to assist and engage new players in the community. This is added to Cory's to-do list, so we're not sure exactly what this is going to be, but hopefully things like deck building with the Squire would be considered for this. Of course, all the podcasts. We've got the Threshold podcast, the 2 Turns Ahead podcast, a bunch of other distributors and content providers like Hex Primal. Those types of people will hopefully be the ones that are considered for that type of thing. the other thing is that we've seen a lot of people, a lot of content providers have started with Hex, and then over the past year have kind of dropped off the radar. So those are the people that, you know, it just doesn't work out for their life situation, I'm sure. And no one is going to get donuts! Yeah, that'll shut them up. Alright, so moving on. Yeah, I'm going to make them cry now. I have to promise them donuts. I have to bribe the children, just like I have to bribe all of you people to come on to the show, right? So, one other thing, we had US Gamer did an interview with Cory. There's really not a lot more to say about this. If you've been with Hex from the beginning, like, this is a good article to read if you're new to the game and you want to know what it's all about, but a lot of the stuff just gets rehashed. The main thing we see on here is Prince Taliesin, who says he's 3 and 2 ruby threshold. It says when this deals combat damage to an opposing champion, void the top card of your deck and then play that card for free, right? So this would be an amazing card for that ramp deck. We've wanted for quite a while to have that ruby wild ramp deck, and so this is going to let you play that on top of playing things like let's see, what's it called, the oh no, I'm forgetting what it's called, and I was just building a deck with this card too. It's 3 wild and X, and basically you look at the top X cards of your deck, and if there are any troops in there, you play those cards. So this will give you another card that does that sort of effect, except it only looks at 1 card. So it could be a shard, and if it is, then you just get a shard for free, which ramps you, which is nice. So he could ramp you. Or it could be a really big Wrathwood Colossus, in which case you'll just take over the board state on, you know, turn 3, which would be pretty sweet too. Yeah, there you go, Eye of Creation. So yeah, in the Eye of Creation, I can see this card being very big in a Ruby Wild Eye of Creation deck. The big problem I'm seeing with this card is the 1 toughness back end, because in that deck I also want to I kind of want to be able to play some Ruby removal. A little bit, not too much, maybe like 4 Heat Wave, and Heat Wave is going to hit this guy. So it kind of makes you not want to play Heat Wave when you're playing this, because that would be a little bit clunky. Again, going back to clunkiness, when 2 cards just don't interact well and they're my own cards, that would be how I'm just using clunkiness in that case. Not too much else going on with this article other than just telling us, you know, some of the different things. Definitely get on here and react if you haven't. I guess you have to log in though, so, you know, for whatever that's worth. You know, it's always good to show that people are interested in the game, I think. Moving on. So the deck for this week, we're right at 30 minutes, so we're right on time to build this deck. So I'm going to pop this guy out so we can actually see it a little bit better in the screen. Yes. It keeps doing the Windows thing, so I got to mess with this for a second. Alright, we're going to get it over here. Alright, so we've got the user Tholomyes. Tholomyes is sending in this deck to me, and he wants to build a tempo humans deck, which means we're in Sapphire and Diamond. He gave me a deck list. I've already moved the deck list over into my editor, and then the other constraints that we have on this down here, when I asked him if it would be alright if I could feature his deck on the show, he only has certain rare cards, and so we're gonna do this where we only have his other rares are going to be like Lord Benjamin, Prophet of Lodgon, Hero of Adamanth, Lord Adam, Ancestors Chosen, Frost Wizard, Cerulean Mentalist, Protectorate Defender, and 2 more Princess Victorias in the deck. He does say he would be willing to spend $40, so I'm going to just say that means that we can buy any commons or uncommons that we need to. So commons and uncommons are fine, but the rares, we got to stick to what he's got in here. So that's going to make things a little bit more difficult. And realistically, I mean, just being real with people, there are players that will sink in whatever they need to play decks, but there are other players that want to be competitive, but they only have a certain amount of budget that they can go, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with operating on a budget, and then you just have to balance that with basically trying to get above that, you know, that 50%. So you're trying to get into that 55-60 percentile with that budget deck, and if you can do that, you're really coming out ahead you're reading things well, and then eventually, you know, maybe if you get a job later or if you get some good wins in, you know, you can build up some of the higher end decks that we're seeing right now, being the Blood Diamond Control, or, you know, we've got Mono Sapphire, and then we've got the probably the cheapest tier 1-ish deck is your Gore Storm. Speaking of which, tonight we will be giving away some of the corner pieces of the Gore Storm deck on the show, so do stick around for that. So we've got the deck in the deck builder here, and I'm going to go ahead and actually go back to that, and I'm going to move this over to my second screen so I can have that available, so I can see what rares I'm allowed to put in here. So I'm going to go ahead and add those rares right away, so that way I don't have to add any rare cards beyond that. So he says he has a Lord Benjamin, so he's got another Lord Ben. So we'll go ahead and add a second one of those. He's got Prophet, so I guess we'll go back to the main list. I don't think we're going to keep this guy in there, but because this is a card that we saw Infamous Neo do really well with the Tempo deck, but it doesn't really fit in a Humans deck because its cost is just so prohibitive. It looks like I need to refresh the page, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just to remind everyone that if you are a content provider or for Hex and you want to come on the show, you can contact me in many different ways. You can use my Twitter, or you can use my you can contact me through YouTube, or put a comment on this video once it gets syndicated out to YouTube. Looks like my deck list is jacked up now. Okay, there we go. Prophet. We want 2 Prophets in here. Hero of Adamanth. So we'll say Hero. I actually kind of like this guy in the main, possibly. So he only costs 5 now. He's pretty easy to cast at the 1 threshold. Although at 5, you know, you would hope that you would have 2 diamond threshold at that point in time. Let's see. So Lord Benj, Prophet, Hero, Lord Adam. I'm still not a really huge fan of Lord Adam. He just feels like he just doesn't have a nice ability on him. Like, it would have been nice if he made everything else steadfast or something, or maybe when he hit the table, if he just like recursively made everyone steadfast, you know, like if he made all the troops that are on the table already steadfast, like that would have been pretty cool, and that wouldn't have been too bad, I don't think. Of course, he'd probably be double threshold if he did that, but Ancestors chosen. Right there. This is we're probably going to have to keep that guy in the main for sure. Another Frost Wizard, or maybe this is all that he has. I'm not sure, because he has a Frost Wizard on the reserve, so it's hard to say. I'll treat it as if he's saying that these are the additional ones. Let's see. Or he says my rares are these. Okay, so he might only have 1 Frost Wizard, which is already in the reserves, which means he might already have a yeah, I think he only has 1, and he's already got Mirror Knight in there. He's already got the 2 Princess Victoria. So actually, let me go back to the deck and just check on these real quick. Prophet wasn't in there. We know that. Hero was on the reserves, I believe. Yeah, so we're gonna I'm gonna pull him off of the reserves. I will do that, and we know we have 2 in the main. Okay, and let's see, Lord Ben. I guess that means he probably only has 1 Lord Ben. So that's unfortunate. Lord Ben is actually a really good one I like to have in this type of deck. He does have evasion. He's only going to put 1 damage through a turn. The trick is getting the damage through if your opponent has flyers. Flyers are decently popular right now. A lot of them, you know, when you're looking at your deck and you're trying to design something, you need to be ready for the power player that has all of the cards. So we need to be ready for Blood Diamond Control. We need to be ready for Gore Feast. We need to have a plan for those types of decks when we see them, and everything else should hopefully fall into place after that. You know, we shouldn't have to be too worried, for instance, about some random mill deck. You know, a lot of times when I go into tournaments and I lose the first round in some like 8-round tournament, I get paired down against the kid that's like 13 and he's just started playing, and he will I'll look at his deck and I'll be like, how many cards is that? And he'll be like, oh, it's like 72. I wanted to be ready for the mill. And I'm like, yeah, you're really hurting yourself there. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is I beat him in about 15 minutes, and then the rest of the time I spend fixing his deck for him. So been doing this for quite a while now. So let's talk about the deck and some of the goals of the deck. We kind of want to be offensive with the deck. Now, Diamond is a choice we could make for this deck if we want to be mostly life gaining with the deck, but I'm not sure we want to go that direction. I typically like to have more value than just gaining life. Now, if we have a playset of Righteous Paladin, that gives us more reason to have Diamond, and so if we do keep those, which we might, I guess that's one reason to go that direction. The biggest problem with Righteous Paladin in this deck is the double threshold, and until we get Shattered Destiny to help us fix a little bit more than with Shards of Fate, Righteous Paladin is going to be less playable in this deck. So I guess the decision point here is how often do we really need Righteous Paladin to drop on turn 2? We really need it to happen if it's going to happen, so it's going to be more of a mono deck kind of card, so we may just end up getting rid of this guy. And if we make that decision, that is easily going to make the decision for us to get rid of Diamond, because that's the main reason why we're playing him, is to buff our Righteous Paladin. But we'll hold off on that decision for now. Another thing is that I look at in this deck, and right off the bat, is the choice to play Repel. Now, Repel is an amazing card for when we're talking about some sort of control deck, where it is that I'm going to be sitting in an open board state, and of course my opponent's going to attack in. They have to attack in. Repel is really good for that type of deck, but we're going to be offensive. We have blockers, we have things. Our opponent a lot of times is hopefully going to be on the back foot. Repel feels like more of a reserves card in this type of deck to bring in against Gorestorm. It's a much better. We need to have that surprise so we can take out that Falconeer and debuff those Falcons. And Repel is definitely going to do that very, very, very well for us. However, typical decks we're going to run up against, we want to be offensive, which means we want as many bodies as we can use as possible. We also have to think about extinction. Right, yeah, I mean, the Prophet is good, it just doesn't fit our curve very well. That's the big thing, going back to what Timberless is asking there. So I'm trying to watch and pay attention, so very sorry if it takes me a minute to catch what you guys are saying. I think he only has one of the Ancestors chosen, so we can only have one of these, unfortunately. Having the 2 Living Totems is good, though. So I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. Do you want to play the Righteous Paladin in this deck or not? I'll leave that up to the viewers in the channel. Right off the bat, I think we can get rid of Prophet, though. Like, let's look at our curve. So we really kind of want to play this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. You know, there's a couple of 5s in the deck, type of style deck. I really want to just smash in the face on these first 2, put pressure on, establish board state with like 2 to 3 troops against Extinction, or dump my hand against anything else, and just really just ram through damage. That's really what we want to do. So Prophet is going to come just way too late. Now, just because we're not playing him in the main doesn't mean we couldn't throw these 2 on the reserves. So for now, we can throw 2 of these on the reserves with the plan of bringing them in versus Extinction to reestablish board state. Probably not going to do it for us, though, honestly. Another card that's notably missing from this deck is the fact that he doesn't have Blessing of the Fallen. For a deck like this, I would at least have it in the reserves, again, versus Extinction. It seems like a really good thing to have, so that way we can get more value out of the cards in our graveyard, and believe me, there's going to be a lot of them. Inner Conflict is maybe a little bit better in this deck. Even though it's slower, its basic action speed, it is more of a card that's going to get rid of blockers, and we want to dump those blockers. Repel is only when we are on the back foot, and our opponent most likely should be blocking. So having 2 to 3 Inner Conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing in a deck like this. Princess Victoria is another life gain choice, so again, if we choose to play the Righteous Paladin, we'll choose to play here. If not, then that's going to make that choice easy for us. Adamanthian Scrivener is another life gain choice champion. And so again, if we're playing something that's more tempo-y and less life gain, if we choose not to play Righteous Paladin, that's going to make a lot less of a case to play this Adamanthian Scrivener, because what we want to be able to do with this combo is turn 1 Scrivener, turn 2 Righteous Paladin to have a 3/3 Righteous Paladin for 2. We want to have that nice body on the field. But if we're not playing Paladin, then we don't want to play Scrivener. So again, it's just waiting for somebody to say whether we want to play this Paladin or not. But I'm really not feeling it if we want to play Tempo. Originally, in his post, he wants to play Tempo. That's what he talks about wanting to play. Time Ripple, of course, is really good. Eldritch Dreamer, even though it's not a human, is not bad to reestablish board state and get us some card advantage. It's another must-answer threat. Of course, with so many things like Inquisitor and stuff running around, that definitely counters it pretty hard, too. I like the Protectorate Defender in here. He's got, what did he put in here? Protectorate Defender with Solidarity, which I believe is the, when he deals damage, everybody gets +1/+1. Yes, that's the +1/+1. The big thing is trying to get through the damage, but it seems like a great card for this deck because we're playing Tempo. So we should be able to tempo things out of the way with the likes of our Buccaneer or our Time Ripples. So I actually really like the Protectorate Defender in here. Other things I've thought about doing with Protectorate Defender is actually gemming him for Swiftstrike, because he is a 2/1 with Swiftstrike. Also, remember when he dies, he gets shuffled back into your deck. So it feels less bad when he gets swept with Extinction. However, it's just as bad because you're still only drawing 1 card a turn. Lord Adam is probably going to be cut. Yeah, quite honestly, he just doesn't do enough for our deck, and at the 4-drop range, we want to have established our board state already, so we can easily cut him already. I can definitely say that already with him. He doesn't really fit. Like, Eldritch Dreamer is head and shoulders above him. We'll go ahead and keep the Angel of Dawn because it takes all the Inspires, and it's just 1. If it sits in our first hand, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, and we know from experience that this is very much a power card that can take over games. So we're still making a decision on the Paladin. I'm really not feeling the Paladin. If we want to play Tempo, we need to not play this Paladin. So I'm going to go ahead and dump him, and that's going to make a lot of these choices much easier for us. So we're going to get rid of Paladin here. We're playing Tempo Humans, so... And it's not to say that that wouldn't be a bad choice, but... yeah, I don't think it's a big thing for this deck. We want to play much more powerful cards that are powerful by themselves and don't need things to build off of. So we get rid of Dimmond. We're going to keep the Living Totem because it's just a boss by itself. It's another must answer. Of course, we've seen this played a lot in the Blood Diamond control. Yeah, it could use Druze. Yeah, it definitely could use Druze. We could run that if we're running, especially if we're running the life gain champion. That makes more of a case for us to run Druze, because then you give it life gain. It swings for 8, deals 8 crush damage, gains you 8 life, and then you can pay the 8 life more easily next turn. Another card I'm not sure I like in here is Oracle Song. This is another card where it's like I would rather just play a body instead of trying to draw more cards and gas. You know, get some more gas. I mean, maybe later it's nice to have. We can leave 2 for now. It shouldn't be too bad. Countermagic, I feel like we need to take up to 4 though. And the reason why is because once we've established board state with our 2 to 3 troops, we want to be sitting on this Countermagic for that extinction. We want to be able to respond to it. Another thing is you're always going to want to keep 3 resources up once it is that you feel like you're in extinction range, even if you could have put more pressure on the table. So it's really a balancing act with the Countermagic. Droves of Druze, yes, droves of Druze. I actually like having more Time Ripple in this deck because again we're playing a tempo style deck. It's a very cheap removal card. This is proactive removal, which is what we want to see in this deck. It's not reactive removal. So by upping it by 1, that helps us get rid of some stuff. Now it is more or less a I'm going to get rid of something now to get ahead now, and then I didn't actually get rid of the threat. I just prolonged my dominance of the board state, and then you can still reestablish with that troop. But it does a lot of things, especially versus Blood Diamond control. It gets rid of Angel of Dawn quite well when it is your opponent happens to top deck it on turn 2. Time Ripple deals with it very, very effectively. Again, we're going to try to metagame here because we're playing a deck which is going to be less powerful than what the current metagame is, but we want to be able to have a chance against those decks. We're going to definitely move these repels to the reserve. I'm just going to move one of them there for now. But we don't... So the big thing when you're playing some sort of aggro, aggressive deck is we don't want to have too much cards that aren't bodies. We want to be able to play bodies and put pressure on our opponent. Soul Marble's another one I think is fine as a 1-of main deck. If he had a 2-of, it should be fine too. But this is a very slow card for this type of deck, so you have to be careful. But it's going to definitely, again, this is another one that's counter a lot of different strategies that are out there, and it's going to help you out a lot. If anything, after that sweep, it's going to help you reestablish by putting a Soul Cavalry in play. Or if you have enough troops in hand, you can make it into the Soul Armaments, and then you can play troops, and your opponent will have a much harder time dealing with them. The Inner Conflicts, I think we can take those safely down to 2 for now, but we can always throw 1 on the reserves. I like the hero actually in the main. Let's see, we've got 3 5-drops is what I'm showing right now. So what's our other 5-drop is Angel of Dawn. So this is a 5-drop, but it's also technically a 1-drop. So this kind of doesn't count against us too much. It's kind of both at this 1 range and at the 5 range. We are maybe leaning a little bit more towards diamonds. We kind of do want to play a diamond shard at least on the 2nd turn with this deck, but yeah. If we could get more Mirror Knights, I would suggest doing that. Of course, we're showing them at about $4 according to the Hex TCG browser and deck builder website. So we know that this is a chase card. It's very difficult to get a hold of. So you know, I don't expect people to go out and buy these unless it is that they're super serious and they want to have like the chase cards to play competitively. But realistically though, $4 is 2 packs of cards, so it's, you know, whenever it is that I buy a pack of cards, I always look at it as I'm not really buying 15 cards. I'm buying 1 card, maybe 2 cards if they has a good uncommon in there. I'm basically buying the rare card as a power player. But other players are going to look at that differently, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But this guy's also another one that's going to help us reestablish board state. The only problem that we're seeing is that he has a low front end, so he's not as much of a threat. He's more of a buff for the deck. Ancestors Chosen is another one that if we could get 4 of these, I would definitely play 4 of these in this type of deck, because it again reestablishes board state. When you get a lot of specters in the deck, you can tutor it out with your Lord Benjamin, which is pretty sweet. It's another threat that's kind of like a buff at the beginning of the game and has some late game payoffs, and it kind of harkens to the deck building mentality of this type of a deck. So there's actually not a ton of changes that I've made to the deck so far, really. I've just basically dumped the life gaining, so we're probably going to have to go and add on some more stuff. We got about 10 minutes to finish out this deck right now. So let's see, resources I've got, what is that, 4 plus 12 is 16, 17, 18. So we probably want to keep this around 23 resources, the colloquial 23 resources, typical, I guess. So we'll put that at 9, so that'll be, we'll put that at 19, and then plus 4 will be 24. Of course, everyone knows I love playing 4 Shards of Fate because of the fixing that I want to have in the game for, you know, double thresholds and stuff like this. But it would not be wrong to play 2 or 3 Shards of Fate in this deck, because that's going to give you more charges and you're going to be able to play things more easily. Again, that's going to depend on some of the other things that are going on in the deck. So we've got room for another 9 cards, and we've got Screaming Children downstairs, so we're going to try to find some commons and uncommons to add to here. We basically got a lot of the power commons already in here. We could probably add on some more Mentalist. Not super amazing, but another one that's going to draw us cards. Doesn't necessarily need to be answered. Another thing that's neat is with the Mentalist, what we can do is if we're playing 4 of these, you might consider, instead of gemming your Eldritch Dreamer for card draw, because we're probably going to pick it up off the Mentalist, we can gem it for something else. Oh, you know what? We aren't in Wild. I was going to say we could gem it for Spell Shield, but that's not in Wild, unfortunately. That's in Wild, and we're not in Wild. So maybe you could give it Life Drain if you wanted to. You could do that. But you'll probably actually just end up giving it Sapphire of the Mind, because then if Mentalist is in play, it will draw 2 cards. So that's probably the best thing. You'll probably just go Sapphire of the Mind on that guy, which you could also do with your Protectorate Defender, but I do kind of like getting the +1/+1. And that's another thing you could do with your Eldritch Dreamer. You could go with the +1/+1. These are things you're going to need to really test out to figure out what's going on with the deck. I definitely wouldn't keep the Inner Conflict over the Repel. Mentalist, okay. Another thing that would be interesting to do with this deck is run Turreted Walls, but that's really not very offensive. So our 4-point range needs some help, our 1-point range needs some help. So let's look at some 1-point cards here to at first. Let's see, PvP. And we want, yeah, so we're looking at, I thought I said, okay, cost. We want the 1-point cards. So we could play Charge Bots. We probably need to pick a champion here at some point in time. Another interesting card you could throw in here is Replicator's Gambit, maybe as a one-of. Sapper's Charge is another one we could run in here if you wanted to for removal, but we kind of want some humans here. I'm not sure if we have a lot of great humans. Now we're getting into set 2 cards, so Scrivener may be the only thing you have to play, or we have Shield Trainer as well. Shield Trainer is probably actually better than Scrivener. I think that I actually like the Shield Trainer a little bit better. It's going to buff everything in the deck, gives us a little bit more back end. So yeah. If you're replicating Gambit, you want to draw cards, so it's a gamble if you're going to play it in here for sure. So yeah, I think we'll play the Shield Trainers in here. That's, unfortunately, this is what we have. Hopefully in the future we'll have better things. And again, optimally you want to have probably 4 Ancestors chosen before you have 4 Shield Trainers in here. But this at least gives you a 1-drop to establish board state. Another thing we could run is Charge Bot, but it's not a human. We could run maybe 1 or 2 Scriveners just to have that initial drop. But we're really not running these for the life gain at that point, just to make that clear. But we'll probably actually we probably won't even run a full playset of Shield Trainer. We can run 3, and that way we have room for 4 cards in our 4-point range. So let's look at 4-point cards here. So we can't run rares, so we can't run this Aspirant, although that's one of my favorites to run like a 2-of in this type of deck, because it tutors your whole deck. Archmage Renlock is another one that really doesn't fit this deck type, even if we were allowed to run it, because it's a rare card. It's actually a legendary card, but we aren't running actions, so we won't be drawing any cards with it. I think 1 Sapper's Charge wouldn't be too bad, for sure. It wouldn't be wrong to run 1 Sapper's Charge in here over maybe some of the other removal. You could run the Sapper's Charge over, because it's a lot easier to cast, so you could run it instead of running the Inner Conflicts, for instance. The only problem with Sapper's Charge is your opponent sees it coming, so they can play around it. So one of the cards I really like in here is probably Citizenry. Citizenry is probably your best bet for this slot. In fact, you may even just decide to play a play set of these. In fact, apparently there are 2 on the reserves. That's why it won't give me any more. Skyle Griffin actually is a big draft card, so that's another consideration you could go with. I mean, it's a nice blocker, but obviously there are better things at 4. I definitely like Citizenry better at 4. Mystic of the Tranquil Dream is another one that you could run as quick action, but it's a Coyotal Cleric. It's not a human, so that doesn't help. Also, the Skyle Griffin is a Griffin, not a human, so again, not really that helpful. Devoted Emissary he has in his reserves, which isn't that bad of an idea because you could bounce things, so it depends how much bounce we have. Shell Safe Sure Shot gives us a lot of other troops that we could possibly get inspired, which isn't a bad idea. So I'll throw one of those and we'll consider those. It's also that's a human ranger. Let's see, and the Devoted Emissary is maybe a 1-of Emissary. So we're considering these right now. Town Crier is another one. When set 2 comes out, I think is going to be great. You can't read it very well, but it says when this enters play, draw a card for each human you control, then choose and discard 2 cards. Probably better in a limited sense than it is going to be in a constructed sense, but you know, it's another card that you might consider maybe as a 1-of or something. Let's see, Phoenix Guard Enforcer. This is maybe a human. It looks like a knight on some sort of chicken thing. Prophet of Ren. This guy is actually probably going to see some play. When you gain a charge, gain 2 health. It's a nice, decently solid body at 3/3 for 4 and 1 threshold, so he's nice, easy to play. But this is going to play more into a different strategy altogether. Again, with the gaining health, probably you're going to play the knights. You'll probably play mono diamond with that and some sort of charge acceleration or something to gain you health and pump those knights up. We haven't seen a lot of mono diamonds, score too well or make it, into the meta, even in really a tier 2 sense. Although I did see people play it in the first couple of weeks. So yeah, the Oracle songs, I think we can pull those. Our 3-point range is pretty stocked. We also have a lot of Sapphire cards. We still haven't decided on what champion to play either, so we should probably make that decision pretty soon. We've got about 3 minutes left in the episode here to make some decisions on some of this stuff. So I need my champions. So let's see, type champion. Let's see, which one do we want to play? Maybe Feather, possibly. Lady Elizabeth wouldn't be bad, or Palamedes. Probably Palamedes for this deck. Palamedes. You could also, go to my, fallback. Every time I play Sapphire, I have a hard time not playing Wyatt the Sapper just because I like drawing cards. But in this deck, by the time we draw this card, we should have either be really close to winning the game or have won the game or basically are losing the game. So drawing that 1 extra card probably won't help us very much. It actually might be better to just have a body on the table. Lady Elizabeth. Again, another great card that probably needs to be at least in the reserves, or consider trading for or buying for this type of deck, is you're going to want to have that Blessing of the Fallen so you can get some of those Inspire triggers. So let's see here. Moving through the deck, this is the 4-point range we need to make some decisions on. It's actually not that bad. We can actually keep all the cards in our 4-point range if we wanted to. So let's dump these Oracle songs here. And we're down to 61 cards, so we may actually just keep all the cards in our 4-point range. So I think a 1 of Devoted Emissary is pretty sweet in this deck because he could bounce your Shell Safe Sure Shot, you get more dudes. He could bounce especially he could bounce like your Ancestor's Chosen Ancestral Specters. He could bounce your Hero of Adamanth, and I believe this is permanent. Yeah, and he could, of course, bounce your Buccaneer, so you could get another Buccaneer target with him. So pretty sweet. Yeah, go for the Trimative. It's a little, we don't have that much time to splash in Ruby to do that. Let's see, the Shell Safe. I think I like Devoted Emissary better than Shell Safe. I definitely like Noble Citizenry better than Shell Safe. We have some Inspire. We don't have a ton of Inspire in this deck. But the Shell Safe is another choice we could do. We can throw that guy in the reserves for now and just pull him from the deck so we can close out the episode here. We've got a decent deck. Again, you're going to need to work with this, but we curved out pretty well here. I feel like this is going to be somewhat competitive. I mean, you're going to beat those tier 1 decks maybe, I don't know, maybe 40% of the time. They still probably have an edge on you. You just have to side properly and play properly. Yeah, let's see how close we can get to Blood Diamond with $40. Probably not that close because we need the Angels. The Angels are at least 10, if not 15. So plus you need the Extinctions, which I think are 7 or 8. Wind Whisper is another one you might consider for the main deck, but it's a Coyote, unfortunately. So there's just not a lot of humans right now to run humans. I like the Frost Wizard. This is another one we could have main decked. So you might consider that as well. The Phoenix Guard Aeronaut is another one he's got. I'm not sure how you would socket this. You'd probably socket it for maybe Life Drain or something like that. I'll put together a sideboard and work on that sideboard, and it will post on the YouTube when this gets syndicated out. So do look for that. I'll put some work into that and give some justification for that. But we do have to close out the episode because I do like to keep these right at an hour. So a little bit of a light show tonight for as far as people showing up, but that's fine because that's more chances to win, right? And I do have some nice prizes to give out to you guys, so do stick around for that. Tonight we're going to give out actually a playset of Ingenuity Engine is the low end prize. The next level prize is 3 Gore Feasts and a Falconeer. That's going to get you on your way to building up that Gore Feast deck. And the high-end prize is your choice of an Inquisitor or 3 packs of cards, so you can go out and draft by only spending $1. So tonight on Deck Builder with the Squire, we talked about some of the news. We're now in open beta. We went over Cory Jones basically responding to viewers in a blog entry. We also talked about the Baby Yeti closed beta alternate art card, the Hex novel that is put out by Christy Golden, and you know, I think it would be great to actually have her on the show sometime to talk about some of the lore of the game. I think that would be pretty awesome. So you know, I did tweet out to her, but I don't think she's gonna respond to me. I'm kind of like, you know, low end of the Living Totem poll, as it were. And we did this wonderful deck doctor, which was for a user on the Reddit forums whose name is Tholomyes. So you have to, you know, hopefully I'm pronouncing that however you wanted that to be pronounced. And yeah, basically until next time, this is Darren Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there.